We've got an urgent warning, folks, as revenge is seemingly being plotted out against the United States. Now, the problem is it might be for something that we weren't even a part of. You see, with all these different conflicts that we've been seeing, communication has been key in order to gauge just how deep the war will go. We've seen it with Ukraine, with Russia, and we're also gauging things the same way with Israel and Hamas.
The spillover effect of Israel-Hamas war is widening in the Red Sea. Tensions are escalating in the region with rising attacks from the Yemen-based Houthi rebels. The latest skirmish between U.S. forces and Houthis, at least 10 rebels were killed and 2 others were wounded. U.S. forces struck Houthi vessels in the southern Red Sea on Sunday after they attacked and tried to board a container ship operated by the Maersk shipping company. The vessel is Singapore-flagged and Denmark-owned container ship named Maersk Hangzhou. Small boats originating from Houthi-controlled areas in Yemen fired arms weapons at the Maersk Hangzhou. Responding to the ship's request for assistance, the U.S. shot down 2 anti-ship ballistic missiles from Houthi-controlled areas in Yemen. The U.S. Navy helicopters sank 3 of the 4 small Houthi boats. The latest incident marks the 23rd attack by the Houthis on international shipping since November 19th. In the wake of rising attacks, India is enhancing its maritime and area surveillance in the Arabian Sea. Task groups, which comprises of destroyers and frigates, have been deployed into that region.
The problem now is that Iran has gotten into the mix. And let me tell you guys, this most recent attack that they encountered, it didn't make them all that happy at all. Now, before I play this clip from the White House, I want you to be very keen as to how they're answering these questions. Listen up.
Can you rule out that Israel had anything to do with this?
We have no indication at this time at all that Israel was involved in any way whatsoever.
No indication, but just to be clear, you don't think, did they support or assist in some other way?
I'm not going to speak for another nation. I would just tell you that we have no indication that Israel was in any way involved in this.
And given that this was the Soleimani anniversary, did you have any intelligence that something was being planned for this day?
We certainly had no indications that there would be some sort of violence surrounding the anniversary of his death.
Now, what are they talking about? They're talking about what Iran is calling the deadliest attack since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, an attack that targeted a memorial marking the 4-year anniversary of the death of Qasem Soleimani, an Iranian military officer who was assassinated by the U.S. under former President Donald Trump. You see how this could be misconstrued, right? Because that's something that we all know the White House is being very careful of because how tensions are so high these days. Now, with that being said, do you guys expect our troops overseas to get attacked even more frequently because of this? Comment a quick yes or no down below, and while you guys are doing that, be sure to hit the like button for the video. I totally appreciate that. Also, if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link in the description down below this video. All right, so I talked about how this attack that according to the reports are not from the United States, okay, right? But how about how this attack can be miscommunicated? And there's a lot of problems that can easily come from something like that. You see, this attack killed 84 people to date, with 280 people being reported as wounded. This is absolutely insane, guys. Now, the Islamic State has already claimed that these twin bombings were their doing, but that hasn't stopped Iran from thinking that the United States, the US, was still behind it all. And it really just kind of feels as if they're ready to step in and step up the tensions between us by at least a notch or two.
The Islamic State group have accepted responsibility for those attacks. They claim that they were the ones who caused that deadly twin blast, which left more than 100 people dead, people who gathered to mark 4 years since the killing of Qasem Soleimani in a US drone strike in Iraq. Now, prior to this acceptance of, or this claim rather, of responsibility by Islamic State, the Iranian state had blamed Israel and the United States of being behind this bombing in the town of Qaram in Iran.
This is really bad news for us because Iran has already vowed to give a harsh response to those attacks, saying that cruel criminals will be strongly dealt with. That doesn't sound good. Now, again, the blame is being pinned on the United States and Israel. So the question is, does this mean that the United States should expect retaliation to happen here in our country? I mean, the White House has already said that they don't want to have this conflict to become any bigger than it has. But what if more of these attacks come? What if Iran comes under fire and then they have no one else to blame? What's going to happen then? This is where mixed signals and honestly, just really bad timing can come into play because there's no love lost between the US and Iran. That much is true. And this is exactly the scenario that the other world leaders were trying to avoid. It's one where we're trying to steer clear of it, when it comes to China. And that is a possibility of confusing one for the other or misrepresentation. So what does it all mean, right? Well, if someone attacked China tomorrow, regardless of the technology or even the weapons used, who do you think that they would likely point the fingers at first? Chances are they're probably going to be pointing to their biggest rival, a country that's time and time again warned them about Taiwan, and that is the United States. Now, to make matters worse, and really, it's just kind of crazy that things could actually get worse, but look at this, guys.
And finally, I can confirm that on January 4 at approximately 12 p.m. Iraq time, U.S. forces took necessary and proportionate action against Mushtaq Jawad Kazim al-Jawari, aka Abu Taqwa, who is a Harakat al-Najuba leader. Abu Taqwa was actively involved in planning and carrying out attacks against American personnel. The strike also killed another Han member. It is important to note that the strike was taken in self-defense, that no civilians were harmed, and that no infrastructure or facilities were struck.
Now, this is completely different from Iran just blaming us. This is a direct attack on a pro-Iran militia commander. And as you guys saw it, it was confirmed by the Pentagon. You can say that it's different from the one that happened in Iran, given that this is a supposed retaliation from the US as they've been attacking our troops multiple times since last year. The question is, are they going to see this as what we call it as self-defense, or are they going to see it as the US being ready to actually go to war with them? So here's the thing. Do any of you think that any of that matters to Iran? And I'm not saying that the US is being framed in any way. What I am saying, though, is that this could easily escalate very quickly if leaders from both sides are not careful as to what's being done on the ground. This isn't to say that this wasn't being done by us either. I'm gonna have to get you guys updated on that in another video, but at this point, what are your thoughts on this? Now, some experts believe that it's highly plausible that we see attacks here in our country as a form of revenge due to the number of people that are coming through our borders, some that are actually included in the watch list around the world. Now, we gotta think about how this is gonna affect the American people. Well, for one, it's probably gonna affect our troops that are abroad right now. For us, it's probably gonna affect the cost of living as Iran-backed Houthis will probably try and intensify attacks in the Red Sea, straining our already problematic supply chain. But as always, I'm gonna go ahead and leave the last say to you guys. I'm looking forward to what you guys have to say about all this. Make sure to share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Before I go, thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll see you on the next one.